Hello there.
Hello, welcome. Should we take a couple of deep breaths with everybody? And
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm here with Antonia Klein, and we are talking today a little bit about singing and spirituality.
Yes.
And Antonia, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and about your background?
Sure. Now, my background is in classical music, and I've been working in that business for a long time. 10 years ago, I started my own agency representing mostly opera singers and some conductors and directors. And that's what I've been doing, yes, as I said, for the last 10 years. But recently, I got more and more interested also in the combination of music and spirituality. Because that's really a fascinating subject, I think.
Oh, I think so too, definitely.
Yes, yeah. And of course, I'm biased because I'm an agent, but I really think that music is the most intimate art form there is, and maybe even the most spiritual, because as you know, there are hundreds, millions of books being written about music, and most of them are terrific, but you cannot really come to the core of music, because the essence, that what touches us, that what makes us cry or fills us with joy, that comes from a realm that cannot be reached by words, and it's beyond language. And that, of course, is where the spiritual comes in. And I found in my work that most singers I know, they are all very spiritually aware because that's their job. And most either meditate or do yoga, or some are even shamans. And they know that in order to touch other people's hearts, they must open their own heart. And that, again, is, of course, very spiritual.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And that's an interesting thing. So in order to really manifest the core of singing, a person has to be vulnerable and to make him or herself vulnerable.
Absolutely, because I mean, the voice is also the most personal instrument there is, because we are the instrument when we sing, and when you make music, you cannot really hide, because you have to express yourself, so you put your personality into it. But so that goes for any kind of making music. But with the voice, you're really, one could say, you're naked, because everything that happens to you affects your voice. And you express yourself, and you can even tell sometimes singers when they start singing and they have a good voice, but the more they develop as a person, the more beautiful the voice can become.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It changes. And also, of course, when you go through a crisis, you can have vocal problems and vocal issues, because everything is connected to your breath, and that, of course, is connected to your voice as well. And you can see that when you speak. I mean, when we are really upset, and then we don't have our support anymore, even if we don't know nothing about technique or breathing. But you hear everything in the voice, whether you speak or you sing.
Right. Oh, right. Exactly. And so it's an emotive tool as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And it can be, that's really, you never think about a person's voice changing because of his or her spiritual journey, or where that person is on his or her path.
Yes, yeah, but it does happen. It does happen. The deeper a person is connected either to his or her higher self or the divine, which I think is the same, the better the singer can express himself, because there's the connection is there, the alignment.
Right. Oh, yeah, huh? And so do you work to coach people to kind of get them to the point where they're making these strides, both in their voice and with their spirituality? Is that something?
Not yet, let's put it that way.
Okay.
I do a lot of workshops for young singers and for singers in general about the business of singing and the business side of things. But when I work with singers who are on my list and I represent them, then that does come up, because of course you work with people not only for 2 months, but sometimes over years. And so, yeah, we share a journey, if you want, even if it's a business relationship. But still, I can see how people develop and how that helps their artistry as well. And sometimes, of course, it can block them also. That can happen as well.
Is that common for singers to manifest blockages in their energy fields? And
oh yes, like everybody else, you know. And with especially maybe with a career in classical music, because there are so many things we don't have under control, and singers have to audition, and you see that time and again that you need to be confident and you need to believe in yourself without being full of yourself. And you do your best, and you never know what the panel is going to like or not. And as soon as they expect something out of them and they try to second guess them, or they take it personally when they are rejected, which of course is normal, but then it's harder for them in this business. And when they decide, okay, I do my best and that's all I can do, and I go with the flow, and if somebody doesn't want me, okay, maybe somebody else will, it makes it so much easier for them. Because of course nobody likes rejection, but it's part of this business. And I see that sometimes singers get bitter also. They think, okay, why am I not having the career so-and-so has? And bitterness is really not helpful.
Really?
It's easy to come to that point. But you can see when they come with that attitude to an audition, I already know that it cannot happen. It won't happen. They will not get hired. So there's a lot of self-sabotaging going on, and it's as with any blocks, it can be overcome, but it takes a lot of personal growth, I think, and inner work to do that.
Right, definitely. Now, this hasn't been. You're kind of starting on really opening up about your own spiritual journey to be able to help other people. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. So actually, maybe we'll start with how we two met, huh? Remember?
Yes.
That was a year ago, almost exactly, I think 13 months now, in September last year in Zurich.
Yes.
At the Virtuous course about angels. And you know, and almost everybody knows that she's known as the angel lady. She's very famous. And she gave her very last course in Europe before retiring to Hawaii. So I couldn't miss that, of course. And I had met her through her work before that, actually, because, as you know, she worked as a psychotherapist. And before starting writing books about spirituality. And she worked mostly with people with eating disorders. And a dear friend of mine gave me her book, A Constant Craving. And 10 years ago, I used to struggle with my weight a lot. I was 25 kilos, that's what, 50 pounds or 55 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
So I'm always interested in weight management, and I love that book, and that got me interested in her other work. And so I started reading some of her other books. You know, she's very prolific, and she writes very well. And it spoke to me so much because she explained so many things to me that I had experienced over the years, but I didn't understand what it meant. And I thought, oh, that's it. And she's very down to earth at the same time, and has all these techniques that are easy to apply, and they work.
Right.
I've always been spiritual, but it was interesting because when I was a kid, I heard stuff and I saw stuff, and you know, as a child, you think that's normal. Everybody does that. And then pretty soon I realized, no, it's not considered normal. So I didn't talk about it. And at a certain point, I kind of closed the door on it because I thought, you know, who knows, maybe I am losing my mind, and what is this? And I couldn't handle it. And then over the years, every now and then I got a gentle reminder, little messages. And I also pushed that away and said, oh, you know, don't be silly and don't be hysterical. Who do you think you are? And all the usual stuff. And then about 4 years ago, I got a not so gentle reminder. I mean, it was still very gentle, but I knew, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is, you know, my purpose, and I should really not lose any more time. And so I thought, okay. And Doreen helped me a lot with that, with her books, and also, of course, with that course, because we both are now proud owners of a certificate of being angel intuitives. And so she's an important figure in my journey, I must say, and I will be forever grateful for that.
Oh, definitely. And I like the way you said it too, because she writes everything where you're just like, oh yeah, you know, it's just, and and the way that she guides people through their, you know, kind of their awakening or becoming more comfortable with their gifts. It's just so natural. And then being a part of a community like we're a part of right now, you know, with Doreen Virtue, with the Angel Intuitives and the card readers, and now the assertive coaching and everything like that. It's wonderful to have people who are actually like, yeah, I get you. You know, I understand completely, you know, how we, when we're children, we're very comfortable with it. And then the older we get, the more we block it because, well, nobody else is talking about their angels and their messages. So,
yes, but that has changed a lot. And really, I mean, as you have noticed, there's this enormous shift of consciousness, and people are so much more comfortable talking about the spirituality, which, let's face it, is a very personal topic, and not everybody wants to, also open up and be vulnerable. But I remember, I mean, 20 years ago, you could hardly mention that you were practicing yoga. It was already, you know, kind of suspicious, and or that you didn't eat meat. And nowadays you have to say, oh no, I'm not a vegan, I'm a vegetarian. But all this is so, really, you can see that there's this dramatic change. And even though, as we all know, there's a lot of violence in the world now, and some things are really worrying, but at the same time, so many people speak up now and say, okay, we are aware that there's more to this world than what we just see, and we want to make a difference. And every now and then I look in the paper and I think, oh dear, but I know at the same time there are so many people working to make it better, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's so important to keep in mind too, and just, you know, keep that at the top of your thoughts. You might not see it in the papers, but it's happening.
It is, yes. And sometimes you do see it in the paper, like, as you know, in Munich, people welcoming refugees and saying, you know, we want you here. We are not the ones who are against you, and things like that. And because, I mean, on the one hand, the world needs so much healing, and on the other hand, there are so many people willing to help. That brings me back to singers, actually, because, you know, there cannot be enough music in the world, and everybody should sing. And there are a lot of professional singers and a lot of amateur singers. And I think music is such a healing thing, really. And you do raise your own vibration, and thus also raise everybody else's vibration, because we are connected.
Right, definitely. And music is so universal. It almost doesn't have a language that is, you know, that would stop a person from listening to it or stop a person from being able to experience it. You can experience it no matter what language it's in.
Yes, and that is also a very practical way of bringing people together. And I see that in opera, where they come from all over the world and they work together and they have this language in common, as you say, music. And also, you know, from other cultures, people perform Western music. I don't think we are so good at performing other cultures' music, but anyway, but they manage to get to the heart of it, even though, you know, we don't know what people in Vienna in the 18th century were like, and we still Mozart and Beethoven, they still talk to us, and they are not the only ones.
Right, because it doesn't really, like you were saying earlier, it doesn't really need word, like it's so archetypal, it's timeless almost.
Yes,
so,
exactly. And it not only, it doesn't need words, of course opera has words, and that is the eternal discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, first the music, then the words, or the other way around. But okay, but the essence of music, that speaks to people, and that goes right to their heart and makes them cry and moves them beyond words.
Right. Yeah, and that must be really evident in opera because so many of them were written in Italian, for example, or in, you know, with, if you're talking about Mozart, wrote his in German, and, you know, but
you also wrote in Italian.
And just to have that go into other worlds and be so timeless and be so universally understood, if you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And not only Italian, and French and Russian and Czech and
right.
And but that doesn't mean people cannot be moved by it.
Right.
And of course, I mean, with classical music, the more you know about it, the more you can appreciate it, but you can still enjoy it when you know nothing.
Right. Right. So it's got different layers of understanding.
Many. Yes, many layers. And you never come to an end. You know, I've been in this business now longer than I care to admit. You never stop learning, you know.
Right.
And also human voice, I mean, since I've been in this business, I think I know a little bit about it, but still, you also, when I sing myself, you always come to another level and you think, oh, wow. And that's so fascinating. It's never, you know, oh, I've seen it all, I know it all. No, you never come to that point.
Right. Because, and there's always new things coming up, even if it is classic.
Yes, and it's also, you know, a little bit similar to my healing work. The more you live and the more you learn about life, about the world, etc., the deeper it gets. And that's so wonderful. Even if you don't listen to music for a while, because you live in between, you have a deeper understanding then.
Right. Okay, so you're also a singer, and you work with a lot of singers.
Yeah, but I'm not, you know, I never got to a professional level. I never got over my stage fright, so nobody should fear me as competition. No, but I enjoy singing a lot, and I appreciate how hard it is to come to a certain level. But I'm not, you know, I'm not a failed singer because I never tried to do it as a living. But I represent singers and I work in opera.
Okay, okay. And how do you feel about the singer as a channel for healing?
Yes, of course, because the human voice is healing in itself. Healing for the one who's singing and healing for the one who's listening. And I don't know, well, actually, I don't know whether any singers are listening, whether they want to chime in or what, because they are the ones who are on stage, whether they perceive themselves as channels. As I say, very many are spiritually very aware. Maybe they do. Is there anybody? Do you maybe?
Let's see. I just typed in a little message to say if you're a singer who would like to chime into the conversation, please feel free. And if you can't get us through the group chat on Skype, or I'm sorry, on the Google Hangouts, then you can message me or Antonia, and we will get to it. So hopefully this will work. Now, do you think that because we talked, I'm remembering our conversation the last time we talked, and does the singer and do the performers get an energetic, gather energy from the audience?
Do they? I did not quite hear that. I think we broke up. Does the singer get the energy, and then you were saying?
From the audience.
Oh, yes, yes, a lot. I mean, first of all, I mean, they have their own adrenaline and they have to work with that, but an audience can make or break a singer. I mean, that's really, you can see that sometimes when an audience is very appreciative and they really carry the performer through the evening, or when they're really, you know, they don't feel like it and they clap a little bit, and that can almost suck out the energy from the performer, because it's always an exchange, you know, it's communication and it goes both ways. And when they really love it and, you know, they shout bravo after an aria, that gives the singer also more confidence, because he reaches his audience.
Right. And so that
kind of... Yeah, it is about communication. And I see that also at the auditions. I mean, does the singer communicate? Does he or she say something where's the character? Do I see that? Do I hear that? And can the singer reach me? And I also know that it depends also on the audience, because sometimes, I'm not in the best form. And of course, as a professional, I know a singer is good. I mean, there are certain parameters like pitch and interpretation and technique, etc. But still, sometimes I don't respond as well to the singer because my energy is low. And of course, I do my best to raise it. But it goes both ways.
Right. And you never really think about an opera performance being a two-way communication. You think of it as being a one-way communication, but that's really interesting to think how your vibes affect the person who's on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, an actress once told me, yes, she feels that so much, the energy from the audience, and it does affect her performance. And usually in a good way, but it can also go the other way.
Right. Oh, totally. But they really have to work at keeping their energy at a certain level as well in order to be able to affect the audience in the way that they'd like to.
Yes. I mean, first on a physical level, because, it's a singer is an athlete, and because he works with his body. And and then also to work with his adrenaline, because many singers suffer from stage fright, and they have to work through it and see that they can get rid of it as soon as possible. And and then they need to be on that level that they can really give their best.
Well, that's really interesting when they get to a professional level that they still suffer from stage fright.
Oh, yes. Most of them do. Yeah. Oh, yes. And there was one very famous one who actually, he was almost crippled by a stage fright, and he had a very good career. I'm not naming names, but because he was terrific. I was once in a that singer left the stage during the aria because he couldn't handle it anymore.
Oh, wow. Yes,
because he was so crippled by fear.
Wow.
And usually, I mean, they get over it. But there was another famous singer who said, I've been on stage for 25 years. When I walk on stage, I still cannot feel my legs because he's so nervous. And then he gets over it. But still, that a certain tension you need, tension in a positive way.
Right, like eustress, they call it. There's like the eustress and the distress. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And only that some people are not able to overcome it, and that, of course, is an obstacle.
Oh yeah, and that would be really detrimental to their career and to their self-value after that.
Yes, of course. Yeah, if they cannot get into it, and then you cannot convince people because they see only somebody struggling with stage fright and not the character they want.
Yeah. So it's really multifaceted because they're not only using their voice but they're also using their acting skills and things to get into a part.
It's very multifaceted because, you talk about the so-called package, which is a word I don't like, but it's the package. It's the voice, it's the looks, it's the acting, it's the age, it's the weight, it's everything. And nowadays, singers have to bring everything. And sometimes as an agent, I think, it looks as if the voice is only 20% of what a singer has to offer, which is not true. But they do have to be the type and so many things, because casting is also sometimes visual.
Yeah. So you really have to be able to kind of figure out which person fits the role as a whole, as an entirety of a person, and not just the voice or the physical form of the person. Yeah.
And at the same time, the singer has to channel in a way that the character he's interpreting. And the better he can get into that character, the better the singer is.
Oh, wow. Do you think that they meditate? Like, is there a meditative aspect to doing this?
I mean, the other day, a singer actually approached me after a premiere and said, "Oh, I'm interested in your interview today. Maybe she's listening. Karen Leiber, if you're there, hi." And she said, "Yeah, that's so true. Every singer I know is meditating. And they do, yeah." Maybe also because it's very stressful and they need it, but they are aware of that they need that connection.
Do you think that when they're on stage, they're meditating as well? Because they're I mean, really, they're focusing on breath. They're focusing on really kind of being centered.
Yeah, meditating, I wouldn't call it meditating maybe, but and they should not be focusing on breath. They should be beyond that, because when you have to think, how do I produce the sound, you should be really able to do that automatically.
Right.
But I know, especially when a singer is not feeling so well, a little bit under the weather, they sing more technically because they are more careful, and sometimes they sing better then. And some of them even say, okay, I've done my best, and I just leave it to somebody up there. And I don't know whether one could call it meditate, but they really give it over to the universe and let it sing. That can happen. Yeah.
So it's almost like a divine guidance or divine intervention.
It can happen, yes. But I mean, it's also a profession and a job, and professionals know what to do, and they cannot be in trance because they really need to do, hit their marks and do the staging and see what the conductor does. I mean, as I said, I mean, maybe there are some performers who have comments on that. Because I've sung a little bit, but I'm not a soloist.
Well, hopefully somebody will keep an eye on the YouTube replay as well, so that we can see if we get any questions about that or any feedback about that as well. So
yeah, I'd be really interested in it, because it's what I see and what I hear, and and I'm always fascinated about how singers reach their audience, and of course, as an agent, how they reach the casting directors or not, and why not. And that is very interesting, because I also need to find, okay, who would be a good fit, and then of course sometimes they have a bad audition or they're not feeling well. That can always happen, but it's very interesting the match, because it's also a kind of a resonance in a way. That somebody sings and they like the singer, and sometimes the casting directors cannot even say why. And sometimes they cannot tell me why not, which is kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
That happens.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Now, do singers as artists and as spiritual people have problems making the kind of manifestation of abundance fit together with singing?
Oh, yes.
Do you see that come up?
I think that abundance, you mean financial abundance.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
Which is usually the case. I always think that money is a spiritual issue, actually, and especially with art, because many singers and many artists in general struggle with the fact that they get not paid, and many promoters also say, oh, but you get the exposure, and they don't feel like paying, or not enough, or not what is really what they are worth it. And I think I told you about this cellist, this young musician who told me, oh, art is pure and money is dirty.
Yeah.
I said, my dear girl, no, I didn't say my dear girl, that would have been too condescending. I said, my dear, if you have that attitude, how do you want to make it as a professional musician?
Right.
Because a lot of people think that way, but I mean, art may be pure, but money is not dirty. Money is neutral, and money is energy that has to flow. And music, as any other art form, is also a business. And as an agent, sometimes people also tell me, oh, you always have to talk about money. Yes, that's my job. And,
right.
Yeah, I heard that, really, that people seem to resent that. And that's also, by the way, why many singers like to leave negotiations to their agent, because they don't like it. They don't like to talk about money. And but people really should be able to overcome that. Because, as you know, it's not that there's a limited amount of money out there and you don't take it away from somebody else. If you earn money, there is enough and there is abundance, but we have to find a way to make it work for us.
Right. And they're putting their time into this, they're putting their skill into this, they're putting, learning, and it's, like you were saying, professional athletes get paid.
Yes. And that's it. I mean, there's this role, Elektra by Richard Strauss, and never mind. And there's towards the end, the father of Electra comes, the one she wants to kill. And this character is called Aegis, and he sings for 4 minutes. And usually, because it's a very short role, but an important one, usually a kind of a big name or somebody who can convey that authority is called in, and they say, yeah, he gets 1,000 euros a minute, because 4,000 is usually the minimum of what that singer gets. But he doesn't get that for 4 minutes of singing, but for 4 minutes of singing and a lifetime of practicing and rehearsing and being the artist he is. And which, by the way, is in a way similar to being an agent, because sometimes, you know, you make 3 phone calls and get 10% of a very nice fee. And then people say, oh, but you worked only 10 minutes. No, I didn't work only 10 minutes. I worked 10 minutes and built up the contacts and did all the stuff that didn't work out, etc. But with singers, yeah, sure. I mean, they work so much and then they sing an evening, but you cannot say, okay, for those 4 minutes or 20 minutes they sing, that means that they get, I don't know, 30,000 an hour. It doesn't work that way.
Right, right. And like you said too, it's an accumulation of skills. It's an accumulation of relationships built. It's an accumulation of being there, showing up, doing the job, and having that reputation.
Yes, yes. And singers, I mean, it's such a complex thing to sing. I mean, yes, you need to do your scales, you need to work on your technique, but there's so many more things to it.
Right.
And yeah, and you bring your whole being to it. So, and you have to develop all of that.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. So it's hours and hours for any minutes that they're on stage. It's hours and hours of work and practice and technical skill and rehearsal.
Yes.
And
oh yes.
So
there was, when I worked in theater, because, you know, I was in theaters in the planning office for 10 years, there was always this joke, okay, and what do you do during the day? Yes, you get it.
Right. Oh, definitely. Definitely. So that's good though, that singers actually have somebody who can come into the middle and represent them and make sure that their value is taken care of or appreciated at the end of the day.
Yes. And get their name out there. I mean, nowadays they can do that themselves as well with social media. But since there are so many singers around, promoters need to be reminded, oh, don't forget so-and-so, and he's really terrific, and things like that. And as I said, many singers are uncomfortable negotiating on their own behalf. Some of them are very good, but most say, oh, I want to stay out of that. Right.
Oh, definitely. And that's good that they have somebody who's able to step in to the middle. And really
also knows the fee structure, because sometimes, you know, okay, this person cannot pay more, and sometimes you think, oh, okay, 500 more would be possible. And that's also something a singer cannot always know.
Right. Well, and then you have the familiarity, you have the networks already built and everything like that. So if somebody comes to you, it's just the same as with our community. You know, it does take a while to build a reputation, name, you know, kind of get your name out there and really work an audience in the same way that it would take for a singer.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And we were talking a little bit last time. Okay, you're doing classes to help singers, or are these like general classes, or how would you describe the classes?
Well, general, it's about the business of singing. And actually, just now, a couple of minutes ago, before we started, somebody else called for a class. It is, the business of singing. I mean, it depends who the singers are. If they are students and they're just starting out, I tell them, you know, how to write an application, what a good photo is, and how to choose a good recording, and everything what it takes, and, you know, what's important about competitions and the art of auditioning, everything a singer needs to know, and what they sometimes don't know yet when they're starting out.
Okay, so that's a lot that they need to consider. You don't even consider how much they need to know when they're walking out on, you know, you just think they need to know how to sing and walk out on stage.
and also, then it really depends who the audience is and where they are. But when they are a little bit more advanced, or maybe they are already in their career, also how to, yes, as I said, how to deal with the rejection, how to make the most of auditions, how to communicate, be it with promoters or with your agent, how to nurture professional relationships, and the pitfalls, because I see them time and again, what to avoid, but what to do. There's so much one can talk about, and it's really interesting. And also with the photos, actually, when I always analyze the photos, because it's very interesting what photo somebody chooses. Because it's the issue of self-awareness and how other people perceive you. And I do that usually that I show the photo to the class, and then I look at it, and then I say, okay, it's either very good, or it does not capture you, or I don't see, the sparkle in your eyes. And usually I don't know these singers, or just met them, or just heard an audition. But in the class, they have worked together, and then I say, okay, what do you see in that photo? And that's really interesting.
Oh, definitely. I can imagine, because you don't really think about that when you're picking out a photo. You just think, okay, I'll pick the one that makes, my skin look the best. Or, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's really fascinating, because sometimes people choose a photo which is nice but bland. It doesn't give their personality. And I tell them, it's the very first impression, and it must intrigue the person who looks at it.
Right.
I must say, okay, who is that? I want to get to know this person, and I want to hear how that person sounds like. And that's always very interesting. I mean, fascinating how then also the singers respond, and when we does that. Because it's this, the self-awareness, how do I perceive myself, and this perceive me, how do I perceive. It's really, that's one of the parts I like almost most about it.
Oh, I can imagine that would be really interesting to see, and then also to tutor people on how to choose.
Yes, exactly, and tell them why I don't like something, or why I do like it, or what would be better. And I do also do one-on-one coaching, where it's also feedback for audition, about repertoire, and about the business and the system, because as you know, in German-speaking countries, we have the so-called Stadttheatersystem, which is unique. Yeah, it's in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And the Stadttheater, these communal theaters, you don't have them anywhere else in the world. And it actually, the system, the German theater, opera houses, and orchestral landscape has been declared World Heritage by the UNESCO.
Really?
Yes, last year was about time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they still have budget cuts, but at least they're acknowledged as World Heritage.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, you wouldn't even think of that as being tied to the state in any way. Do you know what I mean? Because you think that it would be, kind of, I'm American, so everything is privately owned.
No, it's not. And the system of subsidies, and that the taxpayers pays for it, and how that works, and especially for Americans, for anybody who comes from abroad, and there are so many singers from all over the world, because there are so many opera houses. I mean, more in Germany, the rest of it. And so they need to learn about that system, how it works, what they need to know, what kind of different contracts there are, all these business things. And that's what I talk about as well.
Wow, that's really fascinating. But it's, I think about it now too, and I live in Austria, and we do have a lot of support for the arts in our communities. And I love that. I think that's wonderful, because the children can get right into music and singing and everything, and without having to worry about the extra fees.
Yes. Yeah. But I do think that that Austria appreciates art more than that Germany does, I think. No,
I don't know.
I heard that from somebody in Innsbruck, that they said that really that the Austrians, the politicians, but also the man in the street, they realize how important music is. That's also their heritage, and also brings money. All the tourists, and they appreciate that more. And they love singers, also they love artists more. Whereas in Germany, I get the impression, yes, It is part of the culture, but it doesn't seem to be that important, which is a shame, of course.
Right. But I do think, we talked about this a little bit last time, I do think that Germany as a country, as a people, are really taking strides forward recently, as far as spirituality is concerned, as far as, you know.
Oh, yes, I think so too. I mean, especially Germany with its history and the Second World War and everything. We've worked through so much trying to get to terms with the Third Reich. And actually, I heard that, I don't know who said that especially the German-speaking countries, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, are the new roof of the world. Because, you know, this play of words, because in German, roof, das Dach der Welt, is Tibet, actually. You know, and das Dach der Welt, Dach, roof, is E for Deutschland, A for Austria, and CH for Switzerland. So, and it seems to be, I mean, I don't know about Austria, but I do know that it's a very vivid spiritual scene in Switzerland and also in Germany, everywhere. I don't know whether it's more than, say, in France or so, but there's this enormous awakening. And you can see that now, especially with the civil wars in Syria, etc., that people have changed so much. And as we know, of course, there are, again, people from the far right who are very hostile, but so many people are now ready to go out and speak up and for what they feel is right. So there has been this major shift, and that makes me very happy.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we have the same thing going on here with, you know, just, and you know, when it first started, I sometimes can't even talk about it without tearing up, because it's such a part of me, and my, you know, my family fled World War I and went to America.
Okay.
Here I am more closer to my roots here.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, than I was in America.
Okay.
And also, it's really see how the people, you know, being from America and just having that perspective, how it's normal culture to have such a closeness to the land. Mm-hmm. And to the older traditions, you know, like the Advent calendars, the Yule log, the lighting the candles, you know, the farm work. It's so fascinating for me to see, because where I was at, I was so cut off from, you know, everything is kind of astringent and not so, and then you come here and you're just like, you know, it's fascinating on the one hand.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you, in a way, it was for your homecoming.
Yeah, kind of. I'm still getting settled. But also, you know, what you were saying about the Third Reich and how they really pushed art back. So, you know, they knew what was valuable. And kind of, you know, because we have Klimt here, and some of the Klimt pieces are under, you know, negotiations right now for the original families to get them back.
Yeah.
And so, and we did, you know, Chagall, you have all the people who left Europe.
Yeah.
Because they had to flee and you know, for their lives, and they took the art and they took the culture with them. And it was suppressed for so long because, you know, just different portions of society were suppressed. And when you suppress one portion.
Absolutely, yes. But not only that, but they also perverted so much. I mean, think of Richard Wagner. And people say, oh, he couldn't know that he, you know, that they would use him or abuse him. But then again, I mean, there was a reason why they chose Richard Wagner and not Mozart or Bach or somebody like that. So this this part of anti-Semitism in Wagner was there. And back then, it seemed to be socially acceptable. And of course, Wagner couldn't know how many people were killed then later on. But they perverted that. And the thing is, I mean, we still perform him because he's such a genius. But one cannot leave him to the Nazis, but it is a very problematic issue. Just think of what's going on in Bayreuth and how they refuse to open the archives. And it's still a little bit touchy, but I do think it's getting much better.
Right. Right.
But a lot has been abused by the Nazis and perverted for their things. And also, you know, the whole Germanic tradition and history, they all interpret it. And so there are certain things you cannot talk about because they are tainted by them.
Right.
Even though it goes back hundreds and hundreds of years.
Right. But like you said, I mean, it's a progression, and I think it's a global progression as well. It's not just Germany, it's also, you know, America, it's everywhere where it's more of a global viewpoint, where we're really understanding how what we do affects our neighbors, and how, you know, I always think of, you know, that phrase, lest they be angels, you know, why would you? So you never know. I told you I get all touchy about this. But
no, but I mean, it does give me so much hope, because you can see how the whole world is evolving, and in a relatively short time. I mean, 2012 is only 3 years ago, or now almost 4 years ago, and what a dramatic shift has happened.
Right.
And that gives me so much hope, and also this consciousness that we are connected, and that means that every person can do something. And it's not that, oh, I'm so helpless, oh, I can't do anything. We can all do something to raise consciousness and raise the vibration.
Right.
That's such a wonderful thing.
Right.
And I'm so happy about that, even though I also read the papers and I'm concerned about what's going on. But at the same time, there's so much hope, and that's great.
Well, and then I really see, like, when you confront this anger and fear and, you know, kind of that unsureness, and I think that's really what that negativity stems from. It's not, it's really kind of, I'm scared that my quality will be disrupted or something. But when you confront that with, like, understanding, mirroring understanding, and acceptance, and, you know, when you put your hand out, people are going to see it when you grab them and hold them up and pull them up in a lot different way than if you push them away.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. So.
But it takes a lot of work. I mean, I have to clean out my inner trash and take it out and deal with my own fears. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Oh yeah, and don't we all? I mean, it's not only you. And that's another thing to say too, is that when these things happen, people think, sometimes they tend to think that they're the only ones experiencing that guilt, or that, you know, that inner conflict where they have to really work things out within their own psyches. But when you're open and you're saying, like you just said, I still have to work on some of these issues myself. Me too.
Yes, of course. Who hasn't?
Yeah. And we come into this with only the best intentions, and that's the thing that matters the most, is those intentions on how you confront it and how you work with it and how you deal with it, is the intention overall.
Yes,
so definitely.
Because that then makes you understand that the other person may also have good intentions, even though the other person is fearful and then reacts or acts in a way that is less than angelic.
Right. Well, and nobody, you know, sometimes I don't like some of the more coined phrases, but, you know, the one that says, when you squeeze an orange, you know, if you squeeze something, if you apply pressure to something, what comes out is what is inside.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't see that as being true. When you squeeze anything, you're going to put it into that, like, state where it's not able to function properly for a little bit, you know. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad.
Yeah, yes.
It just means that it's normal, you know.
And scared, you know.
And scared, yeah. definitely.
No, we've come a long way from the angels and from opera.
But I think in a good way. I think that part of it is tying the spirituality together. And like you said, music connects people.
Oh, yes.
Music heals people.
Yes.
Music for the singer and for the audience.
Yes. There can't be enough music in the world, really.
No, I agree totally, wholeheartedly. So yeah, definitely. Is there anything that you wanted to tell me, like, because we got about 5 minutes left?
Yes.
So
Anything I want to tell you? I think we've covered a lot. Yeah. Anything else? I mean, I do want to go more into that spiritual direction, combining it with opera. And I'm very happy doing these workshops on the business side, but I wonder whether I can either let that evolve into some more spiritual minded thing, or I do it just whoever wants to work on that can work with me on that. We'll see. I mean, the next month will show how it's going to happen.
So you're thinking about developing courses that actually deal with helping a person along on their spiritual journey as well.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because I'm also a healer, and I've worked with several ways of energetic healing and energy medicine. And so that's something that can help people a lot.
You mentioned your certifications last time, and you have some pretty fascinating backgrounds.
Yes.
So
apart from the being an angel intuitive, the year before, actually, that was the first time Doreen was in the neighborhood. She was in Salzburg in 2013. I don't know, were you there?
I was there.
Okay, we haven't met there. But
Yeah.
then, okay. And she did this course on tarot card reading, which I attended as well, which I love. And but way before that, in 2001, I started this 3-year course, or 3.5, I think, from the International Network of Energetic Healing, INE. And that was my first certificate and my first systematic training in that.
Oh.
And everything that came afterward, that fits so beautifully, because of course the energy is always the same. And I started doing some healing on the side, but never had really time to develop it any further because I was so busy, with music. So we'll see how one can combine that.
Oh, that would be really interesting.
Yeah. And then there was also you also saw. Yeah, I think you worked with Robert Reeves, didn't you? The Australian naturopath. Yes, because I met him in Zurich as well, because he was part of the course. So I also did a certificate, or I got a certificate from him with flower therapy, and I attended a workshop with Kyle Gray, who's also a fascinating angel medium. I love him a lot. And Alex Lloyd, who does, he wrote this book, The Healing Code.
You were telling me about that, and I really want.
Yes, it was a major bestseller, at least in Germany, but not only. So I did several talks about that because it's wonderful. And actually, I'm now talking about a workshop at the Congress of the, this International Network of Energetic Healing. So maybe one can combine that. I'll find out more about that next week.
Oh, that will be fascinating. You have to keep me informed about that, definitely.
Will do, definitely. Yeah.
And Kyle Gray was just here in Vienna. Was that 2 weeks ago?
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And were you there?
Actually, I volunteered on his angel meeting night.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but I wasn't able to attend he did a forgiveness with the angels.
Yes.
Yeah. I really like him too. He's really down to earth and very practical.
Yeah, he's wonderful. Yeah, and a great sense of humor, very Scottish.
Yeah.
And he did this forgiveness workshop when he was still writing his book, Wings of Forgiveness. He did that, I think, 2 years ago in Basel, or near Basel. And I attended that, and it was one day, but it was, it changed my life. I understood so much more about, how holding grudges, poison yourself, and how to let go of that. And yes, I love him. I'm very proud to call him my teacher.
Now I have to go get his book. So you just sold his book.
Forgiveness, yes, that's the latest.
Definitely. So very cool. Well, I know that I wanted to invite you back. Hopefully next time we'll get the technical issues. Like,
then yes, we get better every time.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
it did work today. I mean, I was a little bit apprehensive about Skype, but this time, I think it was okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna watch the. Well, I'll wrap everything up and then I'll probably call you back. But
okay, very good. And
yeah.
I'd love to come back and we talk then about whatever we're going to talk about.
Okay.
And when, what? Yes. Thank you so much, Sue.
Oh, thank you, Antonia. I really appreciate it. And thank you for explaining everything so much. And everybody who's listening, this is Antonia Klein, and she's at Agentur, Agentur, Klein, right? Klein.
Perfect.
At?
No, wait a minute. That would be the website, agenturklein.de.
.de.
The email would be either rklein or energy, but energy with IE, at agenturklein.de.
Okay. And I will, I'll write these in the, like in the, you know, the Twitter explanation so that people can contact you if they want to learn more about opera or actually working with their spirituality to improve their voice and their presence on stage.
Absolutely, yes. Very good.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you,
so
Antonia.
much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Talk soon.